And the holidays are just around the corner, and I'm sure some of you are already planning your Christmas get-togethers. And what's a celebration without food and good wine to go with it? So we have with us this morning a Californian winemaker with exceptional contributions to the Napa Valley wine industry. Please welcome Ed Sbragia. Good morning, Ed, and welcome to Solar Daybreak.
Thank you, Claire and Emily.
So you've had over 30 years of experience as a winemaker in the Napa Valley region. Can you tell us about Beringer, which is where you worked for several years, for over 30 years? Can you tell us more about Beringer?
Well, very quickly, I grew up in the wine business. My grandfather and my father were both farmers, and went away and tried to get away from the farm, but got dragged back into the wine business. I went back to school, got a degree in winemaking, and my first job was close to my home in Sonoma County. But the draw of Napa Valley was very strong, so I went to work for Beringer in 1976, a long time ago.
A long time ago.
And I've been there ever since, so almost 37 years. And Beringer was started in 1876, so they hired me for their 100th year anniversary. And they're very tied to the Napa Valley because the first grapes were planted in the 1850s. The Beringers came in the 1860s and started their own winery in 1876. So they've been making wine at the same winery for the last 137 years. I am only the 6th winemaker in 137 years.
Wow. You know, I was reading about what a winemaker actually does. There's some kind of science to it, isn't it? And I mean, what does a winemaker?
No, we just eat and drink all day.
I know, right?
It's a fun job if that's the way it is.
Well, no,
we
I mean,
can do that on the side, Amelie.
Yeah.
Farming is an important thing, and you know, winemakers take credit for everything, and I like that. That's good. But the reality is we're farmers preserving our fruit, and so therefore, what a great wine is great fruit from great vineyards, and that's why I went to Beringer, because they are, for a long time, have had their own vineyards, an estate vineyard, and being able to make the same wines from the same vineyards, gaining the experience over years, allows you a little more versatility in making, as Mother Nature changes the rule from year to year, to make a consistent, hopefully great bottle of wine.
So it also depends on the region. Like for example, if red wine comes from Chile, how would it be different from the one
In California,
from Napa Valley,
in Napa Valley?
Well, Napa Valley is, just for people who don't know, it's about 40 kilometers north, or actually 100 kilometers north of San Francisco. It's surrounded by mountains, and it's open to the ocean. So anywhere you have, in our case, we're in a Mediterranean climate, but the Pacific is very cold. It's about 10 degrees C. So that allows cold air to come in during the day and then go back out at night and go back out during the day. So you end up with this gradient of cool, where you can grow more cool climate grapes like Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, to where you get to a warmer climate. So in only about 35 miles, I never did the conversion to kilometers, you have different grapes grown. So like in Chile versus California, it has to do with distance from the ocean, the temperature of the ocean, the soil types, and the varieties that grow well in that area. Chile does excellent Cabernets, but they make the best Chilean Cabernet. We make the best Napa Valley Cabernet.
Yeah, so Amelie and I were very interested and curious about the different types of wine and what kind of food goes with it. The Beringer that you have right now is Sauvignon, Cabernet Sauvignon.
Correct.
And you mentioned that there's, what are the different kinds?
The Pinot
Pinot Noir.
Well, like Pinot Noir is like the
Merlot.
same wine grown in Burgundy in France.
Okay.
Cabernet Sauvignon is predominantly in Chile and Bordeaux in France.
Bordeaux, yes.
So that each area has specialized in wines because it grows the best. So over a period of centuries, in our case, a couple centuries, that we have found the best place to grow grapes. So it just doesn't happen automatically. You trial and error. The best way of finding out things is trying it and seeing if it works.
In terms of taste, what is like? Can you describe to us a Cabernet Sauvignon? How is it different from a Merlot or a Pinot Noir?
The
Or
interesting.
maybe now we can start the taste test.
Yeah.
Shall we open it up?
Yeah,
as I
go
talk?
ahead.
So the interesting thing about a Cabernet Sauvignon is that it is probably the most intense of wines. Another one that comes from Australia is Syrah. Those are both big flavored wines. Cabernet Sauvignon is aged in barrels, so this is aged in barrels for 2 years. It can, we're always talking about describing a wine by another fruit.
Yeah.
Because the Cabernet Sauvignon tastes like Cabernet Sauvignon. But the reality of it is that it has characteristics of like dark fruits like currants, black cherries. Often in a ripe year, there's like black plums. And as soon as I say those things, you think about them and you'll taste them. So
Right.
the power of
Right.
suggestion is very strong. So
What about the year? Do
the
we have to
vintage is
consider
also
the year?
different. In a cool year, you'll get more of the more like raspberry cherry characters. In a big year, they get very ripe, and you get more of the black fruit characters. So it is it's one of the things that I hope I don't break the cork. Good sound.
Oh, yeah. Good times ahead.
The holidays. Let's spread the holiday cheer.
You just
so this would
opened
be
your
good with
private reserve, your
So then-
signature wine.
This is our flagship wine,
Flagship wine.
at Behringer. We've been
Okay.
making it since 1977.
Okay.
So it's the year after I started. It's from vineyards right around the winery. One of them is the home ranch where Frederick and Jacob settled. The winery was started by a couple brothers, and they had their dream, and they started a winery, and it worked out really well. So we've been in business, like I said, 137 years in the same place.
And you, on a personal note, you came from, you're a third-generation Italian-American family who grew up in California.
Right.
So what was that like?
My ancestors came from Tuscany. They
Okay.
came to the United States right at the turn of the century. So that my father, my grandfather, actually myself, and I make a little wine on our own family estate with my name on it that my son is the winemaker. So we have 4 generations who've made wine in Sonoma County.
and you
I-
sort of you study for it. Didn't you go to
Well, there's
school for
it's
it?
called an enologist. An enologist studies. It's got a lot of science, a lot of microbiology, because wine is made from grape juice that is fermented by a yeast, and it metabolizes and makes ethanol, alcohol. If you think about it, it's a natural product that's been around. I mean, I think they found amphoras that go back 6,000, 8,000 BC. So it is a drink that has been naturally produced by many civilizations over many millennia. So
Yeah, how do you choose the wine that would go with your food? I mean, if you're not an expert and you're having a Christmas party and you'd like to choose the wine that would best go with what you're serving, does the rule still follow that meats, beef, for example, should be red wine and fish should be white?
wine
Or
and
just
well,
a matter of
dessert
taste?
wine.
I think that's what we used to say is whites with fish and reds with meat. But the reality is first of all, no one can tell you what you should like.
Exactly.
You drink
So
whatever you.
You
yeah,
should drink
exactly.
what you like.
Even for
Right.
breakfast, if you really want to.
Yeah.
Breakfast of champions.
Right.
But the reality is that you're trying, it's all about balance. If a wine is too sour or it's too sweet, it is too strongly pointed in one direction in what you taste. Because what we taste is sweet, sour, bitter, and salty. So,
Okay.
shall we try this?
Yes.
Try the
Go ahead.
private reserve.
This is Cabernet Sauvignon, and Behringer has. You also make different types of wine, or
Yeah,
just
predominantly-
Cabernet Sauvignon.
No, we have about 600 hectares. Mumbai.
Mabuhay.
I screwed up.
Close. A for effort, though.
I'll
Go
taste
ahead.
first.
Yeah.
We have, in the cool area, we have Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And as you go north, we have Sauvignon Blanc, which is, a lot of the varieties came from Europe and came over in the 1800s. So they started planting on the East Coast, and they came to California during the gold rush. So As we progressed, we found some places had, when I first started 30 years ago, they had all different varieties, but now pretty much based on temperature and soil type, the Chardonnay and Pinot are grown in the south by San Francisco, by the Bay, and as you go north and get warmer, you get closer to Cabernet. And so this is a.
But this would be
I
your
like-
best. This is
This
something
is
you'd recommend.
right. This is
Yeah.
the reason the Beringers came.
Try to feel it. When it enters here, it warms up over here.
Well, the whole idea is, and we didn't finish it, a
It's
big
nice.
wine would be matched with a big flavor. A light, delicate wine would be matched with a lighter flavor. It's like food. If you over-season it, you don't taste what you started out with. So
Yeah.
the whole idea is, and that's how red with meat, and usually meat has a stronger flavor, so you'd have a stronger wine. But Cabernet is very fruity. It has lots of black character. The whole idea is that that's why it's in a tulip-shaped glass, because you want to concentrate the aromas. And your sense of smell is very, very strong.
So it should be part of it. When you drink the wine,
Yeah,
you should smell it as
swirl
well.
it, and that's you know
Oh,
you have
oh,
you have
you
to
should have
practice
swirled
it. I often had to go when I first started practice it in the closet
How am I
because I
doing?
spilled it all over.
How am I
me.
doing, Amalan?
You're
It's
doing
like
great.
Typhoon
Okay.
Haiyan
The other
clear.
thing you do
Oh,
is
in
you
a
can put
wine
it on a
glass.
table and swirl it, so then
Okay.
it's a little easier. But then you want to stick it in your nose and just give a big sniff.
So
And-
even the choice of glasses should fit the wine.
Yeah, actually, there's someone called Rydell that makes different glasses that they say, depending on where it goes on your tongue, because you taste sweet on one part and sour on another part and bitter in the back, that if you put it in a certain place in your mouth, the whole idea is to put it in your mouth and just move it around. That's why you see people do funny things when they're drinking wine. And
I
they're-
almost feel like I'm in the Napa Valley and drinking the
actually feels
drinking
good,
the
huh?
wine.
well, that's my always.
And
my-
then speaking to you, I feel I'm transported.
Yeah.
well, good.
Well, I wish we can stay here all day and drink wine,
drink wine
and talk about wine. But that's all the time we have for now. Right now, is this available in the Philippines? Where can we get this?
Yes, it is. It's done in most major hotels. I'm staying at the Shangri-La in Makati, and at the Cav wine
Cav.
shop, and at the cafe at the fort. And then there's the Tinderbox in Cebu, and our distributor, Happy. Anyway, Kathy from Happy
Okay.
Distributors, Philippine Distributors,
Okay.
has Happy Living has
There you go.
would answer all the questions.
Okay, but Cav, I know Cav. So Cav at the fort, that's where they can get it. It's Beringer, Cabernet Sauvignon, and all other kinds.
All
This
the
is
other
delicious.
kinds.
It's really good. Thank you so much for coming
Well, thank
in.
you so much for having me.
And sharing. Maybe you can come back sometime again soon. And that was Ed from the Napa Valley in California for Beringer Vineyards.